Cheers, beautiful friend. Today, I am here to talk to you about hate through the lens of the Akashic Records. Now, you've heard about hate. We've all heard about hate. We've grown up with it. It's inundated in kind of all aspects of society. But what if hate is not as negative as you think? So, one of the big reasons that I wanted to sit down and talk to the Akashic Records about hate is because I've been navigating it. And I've been navigating it in a very uncomfortable way. I haven't ever been someone who hated. In fact, I often say to people, don't even use hate in a small capacity, like, oh, I hate this color, because as soon as you do, you open yourself up to hate. And it wasn't that I feared it. It wasn't anything of that nature. It's simply that I did not want to welcome that energy in. Yet I have really been battling with feeling hate towards things that are happening right now within the collective, hate towards a lot of truth that has been rising to the surface. Things that I've been learning, I think that as a Sagittarius stellium, it's often said that we see life through rose-colored glasses. And I could definitely tell you that that has very much been my experience throughout different, areas of my life as I've aged and gotten older and had more experience. There was always a part of me that understood that there was great darkness within humanity. Yet coming into the awareness of much of this darkness over the past several months has been very difficult for me. I am extremely empathic. I am very plugged into the collective. And between what I have been learning and seeing and what I have been feeling again from the collective, it's been very, very hard not to feel hate towards, well, I have been dealing with hate. I have been feeling hate. And that's not easy for me to admit, especially because I'm a spiritual guide. And yet it's so important for me to admit because the only things that have control over us are the things that we leave in the dark. And I have to tell you, I've been wrestling with this one. It's been like, no, 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 I'm not feeling that. No, no, no. It's okay for me to be upset with this group of people or these particular individuals or whatever the case may be. And, at a very high level, I understand that it doesn't fully serve me, yet I've never been in this place in my life before. And, it's not like I haven't felt hate come up in situations throughout my life, but it's come up and then it's moved out. But this has not been. This has been growing and expanding. And here's the thing. I do not want hate to make a home in my heart. I do not want it to become part of who I am. That is not acceptable. And so as I've kind of been wrestling with this and sitting with this and journaling with this and all of this stuff, I thought, you know what? I really feel that hate has been rising in the collective, and that's part of why I've also been feeling it. And so I wanted to sit down with the Akashic Records because I've never done a reading about hate, and I wanted to understand hate. I wanted to understand if there's a purpose to it. I wanted to understand if indeed it is rising in the collective, or perhaps maybe that was just my own projection, right? I wanted to know how to deal with hate and how to ensure that it does not get into my heart and become a part of who I am. I understand that there are agendas taking place on the planet right now. Yet, because there is so much truth that has been unveiled in 2026, it's been difficult to keep love at the top for me. And that's just the reality. I'm a human like anyone else. And when I see injustice and I see people being killed and harmed and innocence being ripped away, oh, I get angry. Oh, I get mad. I am a triple fire sign. And I've always kind of shared, it's like when people come after me, that's one thing. I can actually deal with quite a bit when someone comes after me. But when I see them going after animals, after people I love or after people who cannot defend themselves, it's on. It's on. And that anger and that rage and that fire comes out in me in such a huge way. And again, I've been navigating that. And because I've been feeling so much anger and rage towards the things that I'm seeing on the planet, it has shifted into hate. And again, I've never been here before. And I don't say that to be cool. I'm just being honest with you because my own struggle with this is really what brought me forward to, again, sitting down with the Akashic Records to understand it better. Because ultimately, that is what we are here to do, right? When we find ourselves in places where we're like, what is happening? What's going on? Maybe we've been there before, maybe we haven't. We want to dive into it. We want to understand it because perspective is everything. And, I do live by a very particular truth that everything is for our benefit. And man, has that been difficult to sit with this year. Really, really hard. It's even difficult for me to say now. And yet I do know at my core, at my root, that that is true. And so I needed help. I needed big help from the Akasha to really shift that perspective without bypassing what I'm feeling, what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to break it down. I've got notes. This honestly was such a gorgeous reading and so helpful for me on a number of different levels. It legitimately did help me to shift this hate out of my heart, for me to see things from a different perspective, to be kinder to myself. And so I'm excited to share it with you. And yeah, we'll get into it. There's quite a bit here. So first and foremost, if you're brand new, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Anna Hendricks. I'm a spiritual guide, teacher. And in my world, we talk about all things that shape who we are. From the Akashic Records to spirituality, fear, relationships, the nervous system, collective energy, what's going on in the world. Everything I do has one purpose, and that is helping you reconnect with yourself. So if this is of interest to you, please subscribe and join me on this journey. All right, so let's kind of dive in. And again, I've got several notes here that I'm going to be referring to. That way I can really stay on course, because this was like a very deep dive with the Akasha. I asked them multiple questions. Again, I wanted to know all about what fear is and the purpose it serves, and the role that it's playing in society. Like, again, am I projecting? Is there more hate on the planet, or is it just me? And of course, how to deal with it, how to manage it, how to overcome it, because we do not want to allow fear to make a home in our hearts. Okay. So kind of the main theme from the whole reading that I did was hate is not the problem, right? It's the signal. And what we choose to do with it determines whether we contribute to destruction in this lifetime or become a force of love. And let me tell you, this message was not open and gooey. It was not, it was incredible. It was so incredible. Okay, so first and foremost, hate is not evil. It's an emotional alarm. And, what was cool about this is I've done a lot of work with emotions through the Akashic Records. I even have like a self-study course on my website, but emotions are a very rich and important part of the human experience. In fact, it's quite unique to us as humans here on planet Earth. And for like people like myself, we come into this lifetime to learn how to deal with emotions. Like, I'm an emotional authority in human design. I feel huge emotions. I'm a highly sensitive individual, whatever those, all the labels. I have really had to work with my emotions in my lifetime and really had to learn how to navigate them, be safe feeling them, all of those different things. And so it was very helpful for me to see that hate, just like happiness or hope or You know what I'm saying? It's the same. It is just an emotion. And so the Akasha really removed that sort of moral charge from hate. They were like, hate is not bad. It's not something to deny. It's not something to feel guilty about. It is simply an emotion. And that was so helpful for me. They brought up the fact that here on Earth is a planet of polarity, period. And you've heard me say before, everything is either rooted in love or in fear. And hate is obviously connected to fear, right? But nonetheless, it is an emotion. And so that polarity is important for us. It plays a huge role in our growth and development. It's one of the reasons why we can come to planet Earth and grow so much in one lifetime, because there is that polarity, right? So the role of hate is really to wake us up whenever something is occurring that is fundamentally misaligned with love. And I want you to really think about that again. I'm going to say it one more time. The role of hate is to wake us up whenever something is occurring that is fundamentally misaligned with love, right? So the issue isn't experiencing hate. The issue is allowing hate to step into who we are. And again, get into our heart, right? Which was my biggest concern, because it was just like, it wasn't momentary what I was feeling. It was staying with me. It was like in my mind, it was like in my heart, it was like, oh, this heavy murkiness. And because I am not someone who hangs out with hate, it's been very uncomfortable for me, right? The Akasha said, hate has always been a part of humanity because planet Earth is a planet of polarity, and hate plays a role in society in that it's an emotion, simply that, right? They said when it comes forward, it is meant to alert you acutely to what is happening. And they did, when the Akasha channels, they say things a little bit weird sometimes. Sometimes they're a little bit wordy with like how they're going to describe something. But I found it so interesting that they said it is meant to alert you acutely to what is happening. And so it is meant to like, boom, get major alert, which is definitely what was happening with me. It was like, whoa, okay, why am I feeling this? What's going on here? Where's this coming from? And of course, I've got all of these reasons when I look out at the external world, but like, wait, right? So hate is very important for us to feel. It's a part of being human. All right. We just don't want it to become a part of who we are in this lifetime. Number two, hate only becomes dangerous when it finds a home, again, when it gets into our heart, right? And this is really important to understand, because hate in and of itself it's natural. And, it's kind of like I've done a ton of teachings about anger. And I love anger. Anger is honestly my favorite emotion. I know that's wild, but hey, I'm a fire sign moon. So like, when I get upset, boom, I feel anger. And so I have really had to learn about anger. And, the Akasha helps me to see anger. It is a motivator. It is a protector, and it is a healer. Anger is beautiful. The emotion in of itself is, there's nothing wrong with it. It's what we do after that makes it positive or negative. And hate is the same way, right? So feeling hate is fine. That is all right. Living from hate, that is destructive. That becomes dangerous, right? So when people attach stories to this emotion, when they feel it and then they nurture it and they replay that stuff again and again, and they loop it around in their head, they begin allowing it to settle into their hearts, into their bodies, and it begins changing who you are, right? And that hate eventually becomes the lens through which you see everything, your experience, your perspective, right? And that, of course, is where corruption and violence and cruelty and all of those things begin. And what was really interesting about this is that, the Akasha talked about how, like, hey, when people will incarnate into a lifetime and They want to be the bad actor. They want to be the person that commits the violence, that does the harm, right? Because we've all done it. We've literally all done it at one point in time or another. Our soul wants to experience every experience. It does not label things as good and bad like we do as humans. It's so much bigger than that. All right. But the point is that when we do that, hate is actually a very useful emotion for that individual because it enables them to do the things that they came to do in this lifetime. And we'll get into that just a little bit more in a moment. That was so fascinating to me. The Akasha said, a seed of hate, when it is planted, cultivated, grown, it eventually takes over the individual. And this is what leads an individual to kill, to cause harm, right? But hate in and of itself is not that way. So, hate right now, one of the roles that it's playing is that it's showing us as a collective that we are out of alignment, that things are out of alignment, right? And this happens because at our core, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your personality is in this incarnation. All of us are beings of love and light at our core. In fact, love is what enables us to come to life to begin with. You know, it is our very nature. And so hate signals to us, and feeling hate signals to us that something is deeply wrong, right? And you can think about how obvious that is, but I don't think that we really understand, like, oh, wow, this is such an important thing to be shown, right? That discomfort that we feel when we feel hate, it's not a flaw, it's information for us. And instead of trying to like push it away or pretend that it's not there, right? Like bypass it, which I think I was kind of trying to do at some points, because again, it was just like, I don't do this. I don't hate people. I don't hate groups. It was so weird for me, right? It's an invitation for us to become deeply present with what is happening in the moment, and then to ask ourselves what this is trying to show us, right? The Akasha said, you as humans are beings of love, love at your core. So it's important for us to remember that, right? Nothing wrong with feeling hate. So hate lives in the body. And this is really, really important, right? Because this isn't just an emotion, but it literally becomes this like energetic weight in our physical body. And because we are beings of light, we are not meant to be carrying this emotion through our body in a consistent way, unless, again, that is aligned with what our soul is here to experience in any given lifetime, right? Which we've all been the bad person. We've all done the horrific things. That can be hard to think about, especially in these times. But that is just the reality, right? But when it stays in our body, when we allow hate to get into our heart and to really make a home within ourselves, it begins to manifest as very difficult things, right? So the work with hate is not pretending that hate isn't there, right? It's actually learning how to move it through our body. And that's going to be different for all of us, right? The Akasha said, you do not want to carry it. When you allow hate to make a home in your body, it brings sickness, physical sickness, mental sickness, sickness of the heart. It creates distance between those you love. It breaks relationships. All right. So, a caveat here is that, well, not a caveat. Let's just go to the next one because I'm confusing myself now with my notes. I've got very clear notes and yet I'm somehow getting confused. Okay. So, digging into why hate is actually rising in the collective. And I was very happy to learn that it wasn't just my projection. And I wasn't just like, whatever. I don't want to say hopeful thinking because that's definitely not true. But what was true is that I was very much not only feeling hate myself, but also picking up on hate rising within the collective. And it's been fascinating for me to be like on threads during the World Cup, because of course there's so many different discussions, and I'm not going to get into these like detailed things right now because it's unimportant. But just to see the way that people are disagreeing, the way that they're reacting, it is not in a it doesn't fit. You know what I'm saying? Like the things that they're saying and how they're reacting, like it's like way out of proportion. And it's like, what is happening? And the World Cup. I mean, like, look, I'm a massive, massive football fan, and that's soccer for my American friends. Um, and I understand we can be fanatics, but this is a whole different ball game. And there have been very different things with this World Cup. So anyway, hate is rising in the collective right now. So the Akasha confirmed that this is what's happening. And what they shared was very interesting and also helpful again for understanding the why behind this. It's easy just to be like, oh, well, of course, like there's so much to be pissed off about, but it's deeper than that. Okay. As collective consciousness is rising, and Pluto and Aquarius, and we've got both Saturn and Neptune in Aries, truth is being exposed in a way that I have never seen it in my entire life. I mean, literally just within the last 2 months, the amount of truth that has come forward in regards to who people are, what organizations are, what countries are, like these types of things, it's difficult for me to like express, explain, articulate. I don't know how, because it's like left, right, center happening nonstop. And if you're someone who's been paying attention, then you know what I'm talking about. There is an enormous amount of truth that has been rising to the surface. And we are witnessing corruption, manipulation, and suffering on a level that we haven't ever before. Social media, our phones, like all these things allow us to see what is happening across the world. And because, again, our consciousness is rising, i.e., our empathy has risen, it's a whole different experience. And all of these things that were previously hidden are being shown to us. And our systems are taking a beating. And of course, it is bringing up so much emotion within us. For some, like they're scared. Others, they're heartbroken. Others, they're so angry, right? Like there's so much big emotion. And a lot of that is hate or is feeding in to hate, right? And they said the increase in hate is largely a consequence of greater awareness that's taking place. So the Akasha specifically said, whenever there is a great awakening take place, hate will come into the collective more because people are seeing things more clearly, oftentimes for the very first time. There is so much truth that is being revealed around the worst of humanity. And the truth is that most people don't want to see it. They don't want to see the truth. They don't want to believe that there's this type of suffering. They don't want to believe that these groups are being treated this way. They don't want to believe it because they want to stay all nice and cozy in their little world where things are all happy and going well, right? And I get it. I want to as well. Sometimes I even get pissed. I'm like, hey, universe, like I just wanted to come and live a life. And like, here I am on the brink of destruction. Humanity's been here before in different ways because we have had so many different evolutions of humanity. However, we are in a very new time. And it made so much sense to me that, again, as our consciousness rises, because we are being shown so much truth, of we're feeling hate because we are beings of love. And we're like, this is not acceptable. This is not okay. You can't treat us this way. You can't do these things. You can't make these laws. You can't, you know what I'm saying? It is good. It is that hate that is rising in us is alerting us to the fact that things are not okay. And guess what? As I've shared on this podcast so many times, change always starts with awareness. Always. And if we didn't see things clearly and we weren't experiencing them, we weren't feeling these big emotions, what makes you think that we're actually going to get out and require change, make change, create change? No way. We'll stay at home, especially here in the US. I can't speak for other countries because I didn't grow up in them, but Americans have always enjoyed sitting around their dining room table complaining about this and about that, and but getting out and doing something about it, requiring change, it hasn't happened. So maybe this hate that we're feeling, this like boom, red flag, boom, cautionary tale, is waking us up to the point where we're going to say no more. And we're going to start requiring something different. And so maybe hate is a good thing, right? Again, as long as we don't allow it to seep into our hearts, right? And mind you, it's so important that we don't look away in these times, that we do allow ourselves to see what is happening. And, maybe it's a little bit of time. Maybe sometimes we can handle truth more than others. But the bottom point is that it's important for us to look. It's important for us to see, okay? Our next point here, the anecdote is not fighting hate, it is feeding love. So when we think about how to work with hate, and you know what? I think I want to come back to this. Again, I'm getting all mixed up with my notes. I'm so sorry. Okay. So first and foremost, before we dive into that, it's important for me with my next point that should come before that one. Hate is like a wildfire. Okay. So this is one of the strongest metaphors that really came up kind of throughout the reading, is that the Akasha used wildfires and the way that they move and the way that they erupt like hate. And so we do need to be aware of them because we don't want to leave hate unchecked. We don't want to leave it unchecked in our body and our hearts around us because it does consume everything. It is a huge emotion, very, very, very powerful, which is why when you look back at political movements across the planet, hate has been used just left, right, and center, right? And of course, like in a multitude of ways, but at the core, it's been hate towards a group, towards a whatever. Hate is extremely powerful. And so because we are energetic beings and because what we allow ourselves to sink into and to be and to feel, that affects the people around us. We want to be mindful of this. And again, for me, it's like, yo, I'm a spiritual guide. Hello. I can't be hanging out with hate. I can't allow hate in my heart. But I'm so upset about what's going on over here. So like, how do I deal with this? And that was why I came. Like basically on crawling knees, like to the Akasha, like, okay, talk to us about this because I cannot allow this to take place within me. So kind of stepping back, right? The antidote to hate, of course, is love and feeding love. So rather than obsessing over the darkness that is taking place on the planet right now and really losing ourselves in it, maybe through social media, through like conversations with family and friends, the Akasha wants us to focus intentionally on creating, feeling, experiencing, giving more love. And they literally kind of showed me this as like, okay, if you feel hate, then to kind of counterbalance that, you're going to like then focus on like feeling love in like 5 to 10 different ways. So, feeling love through what you listen to, through what you talk about, through what you see, through who you're around, through maybe what you eat, like anything, right? really, really, really being purposeful about feeling and experiencing love. Ultimately, this is about being able to raise your vibration to a point where eventually hate is going to like come in and you're going to feel it, but you're just going to kind of knock it back because it's not for you. It's kind of like fear. Fear is a different type of alert system. And some people really allow themselves to be overtaken by fear. And so it shuts them down, it diminishes them. They play so small. But when they elevate their frequency of love, then they're able to knock it back, knock it back, knock it back, right? And remove it, release it from their system. So this is an active practice. This is not something that you can do from a passive perspective. And the good news here is that, like, if you're like me and have been navigating hate in a pretty intense way, the good news is that it's not going to last. Like, that intensity level is not going to last. Once you work with this a couple of times, that intensity level is really going to come down. And once you really work kind of on elevating your frequency and the vibration within you, it's not going to hit you in the same way. Also, just listening to what I'm sharing today is going to be helpful to you because perspective shifts are so powerful for us. When it comes into our awareness, then we're like, oh, this is what's happening. And then so we start dealing with it differently. But I am talking about really going for it when it comes to, again, experiencing love, feeling love, giving love, showing love to other people, and you could do this in so many ways. You can encourage people online. You can give compliments to strangers. You can smile at people. Like, there's so many different ways that you can do it. Give love, and be very intentional about it. We do not want to allow hate to rise in the collective in a way that it stays. We want to, allow people to feel their emotions. Ultimately, if hate is part of what motivates us to require change and to stop treating each other so poorly, then that's great. But we want to be mindful because remember, hate spreads like a wildfire that is quick, that is difficult to control. And so again, we want to be pouring in love wherever we possibly can. So it's something that we need to cultivate through our environments and our relationships, our conversations. One of the things that the Akasha talked about the very beginning of this year, and I've just been seeing this again and again, is they said, whenever possible, don't come home and talk to your partner or your closest friend about what is taking place in this world. Be really mindful of those conversations because you add a lot of weight to the relationship and it can cause a lot of stress without ever intending to between the two of you. What is so much more powerful is to use that relationship to elevate you, to, hide away from the world, to find joy and laughter and fun. And, my partner and I, we are both very aware of what's taking place in the planet. And we both have a lot of opinions. And so we talk about a lot of things. And often I'm like, let's not talk about this right now. Or I'll change the subject, or you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I can feel that heaviness kind of coming in. And while I'm so thankful that I'm navigating these times with someone who experiences things and views things similarly to the way I do, and we can be of support to one another in that way, I also want to really emphasize and strengthen and build up aspects of our relationship that bring me so much joy. The way that we laugh together, the way we have like such a blast, like going grocery shopping, like the simple things in life, because ultimately these are going to be the things that really enable us to move through this time without losing ourselves to all of the heaviness that we're seeing. The reason that life and humanity seems so dark right now is because there's so much light on the planet. Again, we are being shown truths left, right, and center. And we have to remember that it is our frequency, it is our perspectives, it is what we say that is going to build the future timeline that we are stepping into. And so losing ourselves and all the negativity is not helping us evolve or step up to that next level. And we have to be mindful about that. One of the practices that is so huge for me that I have been bringing back into my life over the past like month and a half, 2 months probably, because I've just been so, is my gratitude practice. Sitting down in my morning time every single day, writing down 10 things that I'm thankful for, and just, like really encouraging myself to focus on the beautiful things in life, because ultimately that is what we must do to move through these times. And definitely that is what we must do to keep hate under control and prevent it from becoming a wildfire. We don't want to start that flame. Okay. So a couple of things that the Akasha just shared, and I just want to reiterate these for us because I believe that they're so powerful as we kind of close things down here. First and foremost, hate is just an emotion. Okay, it's just an emotion. In fact, it is an alert system. It signals to us that something is out of alignment, but we do not want to allow it to stay. We want to process it and ensure it does not find its way into our heart or become part of our identity, right? Truth is what is bringing more hate to the surface right now, and why we are feeling it, right? Because we are awakening to the darkness that has always been here. And make no mistake about it, it has always been here in humanity. We're being asked to tackle it. That's huge, right? We must feed love intentionally, right? So every act of love that you can create and generate or receive for yourself is so important in these times, and neutrality, absolutely huge. Hopefully today's message, what I've been sharing with you, assists you in stepping into more of a neutral place when you kind of consider these huge emotions that are coming up. They are playing a role for us. They are helping us to see clearly. We just can't become consumed by them. And then, of course, like love. Love is our ending. Love is what we're always going to come back to. Love is what we need more than anything at all times. I've often said, like, there are no like total truths, right? But the one is that love is the answer to everything. So this is what I have for you, my beautiful, beautiful friend. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to hear how this message resonated with you. Please share it with someone who can benefit from it. And don't forget, when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next time.